To weed or not to weed? That is the question. Whether it is noble to roll up a couple of J's or make a couple of lines of coke and go that way. Oh wait, that's not the line, is it? Well, maybe it is. This is one of the earliest depictions of Shakespeare, said to he's done when he's alive. You can see this weird, I don't know if it's a gray-blue, dark-rimmed eyes that he has going on here. And you can kind of see the pointy-nosed features. Doesn't look near as fat a face as what's shown in some photographs, but then again, paintings. But then again, a lot of times painters paint people in a better light, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. People can float weights and things like that going on. But this is said to be William Shakespeare. And what's he got to do with weed? Well, let's just take a look at this. Were the works of Shakespeare inspired by cannabis? Scientists find traces of drugs on pipes. Were the globally renowned works of the master playwright himself written with a little bit of inspiration from drugs? That is the question posed by South African scientists who studied tobacco pipes from Shakespeare's home and found traces of cannabis and other stuff, it seems. Shakespeare, an influential figure of Elizabethan England, is known for his plays and sonnets and is considered to be the most famous writer in the English language. He has an extended vocabulary that's almost foolish. 400-year-old pipes of the playwright. A grouping of 17th century tobacco pipe pieces were found at a William Shakespeare's historic property in Stratford-upon-Avon, England. The pipe fragments were examined, and anthropologists and botanists using sophisticated forensic methods, and researchers detected cannabis on 8 of the fragments, 4 of which were excavated directly from the bard's garden itself, according to time. This is John Shakespeare's house, believed to be the Shakespeare's birth home. They have that, and then he lived in the other house, and then there's Stratford-on-Avon, and so on. And I was looking at another article where I saw this, just scanning through. Published in the South African Journal of Science, speaks on the chemical tests done on the clay pipes, a technique called gas chromatography mass spectrometry, GCMS. These non-destructive chemical tests revealed traces of drugs on the pipes, bowls, and stems, including cocaine, unspecified hallucinogens, and compounds created by the burning of cannabis. Effectively, if you've ever seen a regular pipe bowl or a pot bowl, it always develops this little tarish type stuff that's down in the bowl that you may have to scrape out every once in a while, and it'll get clogged up. And whenever you have those old pipes like your dad or granddad had, they had pipe cleaners that went inside of them to help clean it out so it took good fresh hits off of it. But then also there was a tamping rod and this whole series of things that went with it. And usually with it was this little thing that clipped the end of cigars and stuff like that, or at least the one that my father had. And so there's a little kit that goes with it and things too. But the pipe fragments from Shakespeare's garden containing traces of cannabis, while the other pipe pieces revealing residues of Peruvian cocaine and other drugs were from a different location. But right there. But this is like his garden in this spot, and associated with him, and on his property still there's these other ones that are there, and they've got cocaine. It's not like they're but the way they're throwing that out there, they're trying to go, well, he hit some pot, but he didn't do that. Anyhow, so I did other ones on the secret burial chamber found with Scythian burial mound reveals golden treasure of drug fuel rituals, and it was where they had the thing and they smoked out in it, and had the rock that they burnt the resin on and things. And then Journey Through the Ages, we've taken that, and a new study sheds light on drug culture in Tiwanaku, Bolivia. Might have to check that out and just see what's going on with them. It's always weird to see what people are doing in an alternate light before a modern day. Mysterious messages of compounds strange. Yep, that's in his type of vernacular. And we'll find something about that as people investigated, and people that, really investigated his works said, well, it says something here. So, a study author and anthropologist Francis Thackery of the University of Waterstrand in South Africa suggests that Shakespeare might have referred to drug use in some of his works. Thackeray points to Shakespeare's Sonnet 76, which reads, "Why with the time do I not glance aside to new found methods and to compounds strange? Why write I still all one, ever the same? And I keep invention in a noted weed." This is the front of his book, The Sonnets, never before printed, 1609. And that's quite an early date for them to have all of this stuff over there, even tobacco itself. But cocaine too? That's weird. He says the noted weed that they talk about might be interpreted to mean that the playwright was willing to use weed, cannabis, as a kind of tobacco, for creative writing invention, says Thackeray. Thackeray's a square. He continues in the same sonnet and appears that he would prefer not to be associated with compounds strange, so which can be interpreted to at least potentially to mean strange drugs, or the cocaine, or maybe even the hallucinogens. So it's not really a Sherlock Holmes where it was the lady in the closet with the bowling pin, but yeah. And the strange thing is in this early age, there's cocaine there going on, some type of hallucinogen that they don't mention in the thing. One can only specify, you can't really smoke mushrooms or anything, can you? LSD is a different compound altogether. Peyote wouldn't have been really available or something. Mezcal, that type of thing. What could it be? So, so he says that, like, it, and apparently in the sonnet then, he would be willing to use weed, but he doesn't want to be associated with the other drug, probably for reasons, I don't know. Let's see. In the research, the researchers believe Shakespeare might have been fully aware of the pernicious effects of cocaine and dismissed it, and preferring cannabis as a stimulant instead. It's entirely possible. I mean, there are so many noted people that were in creative arts like this, like music and so on, that we could go all into. One contemporary of thought, at least, not in exact timing, was Edgar Allan Poe, and it noted that he had a problem with opiate use and things, and he wrote really obscure writings and things himself. So, and quite a few more, and ones we'll never knew that we never knew. But digging up the truth, news magazine The Wire reports that Francis Thackeray once sought to exhume Shakespeare's skeleton in an attempt to determine the cause of death, which remains still mysterious, kind of, and perhaps glean more information on his potential drug habits in a forensic, non-destructive manner. Any grooves found between the canine and incisor teeth might reveal to the researchers if he was chewing on a pipe as well as smoking from it. And I'll tell you now that if they were saying, look, we want to exhume Shakespeare because if we look on his teeth and it's got these grooves, he was chewing on a pipe. Now we found this pipe and it's got this stuff, and they'd be like, excuse me, next. So no wonder that didn't go, and says the exhumation did not happen. And just as well for William Shakespeare is said to have had a strong obsession with burial and a fear of being exhumed or messed with, he tried to ensure his bones would lay restfully by having a warning carved onto his tombstone: "Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones." So, hey, one of his last writings or whatever, and apparently he dictated that he wanted that written on there. Is the accusation of drug use by Shakespeare much ado about nothing? Kadoonch. No, it's certainly drug use throughout the ages, including 17th century England, is not such a shocking revelation. Forensics tell a tale of diversity of plants that were smoked in Elizabethan England, but since pipes cannot be exclusively tied to that bard himself, the question of whether William Shakespeare used that pipe for the cannabis to inspire his writing remains speculation at best. On the other hand, a study of author Thackery has been arguing that this perspective for more than a decade and has attracted some derision from Shakespeare scholars. They dismiss the suggestions that the author's genius was fueled by drugs. Well, nobody is going to that point of saying it, but at the same time, it can be some type of form of inspiration for people and enlightenment, insight, and things like that. I mean, where do you think he gets that whole storyline from? Well, from studying some ancient tales and things like that, and perhaps a couple of hits off a pipe every once in a while and things like that. I mean, the tale of Xanadu and a Thackery by Kubla Khan is supposed to be an enhanced drug trip. It's supposed to have been a dream that he had, that he took the ancient soma drink that had been procured for him, and Xanadu. And I grew up with a Rush song that's in it and everything. And at that same time there was a roller skating movie with Olivia Newton-John, and she was singing and stuff, and it had little futuristic graphics and stuff, and some old actors and cameo roles and stuff. But that wasn't really Xanadu there, but they went to a Xanadu also. So Thackeray and his colleagues appeal to the historians, noting that literary analysis and chemical science can be mutually beneficial, bringing the arts and sciences together in an effort to better understand Shakespeare and his contemporaries. And of course, they don't like that because it's insinuating that some of the greatest works that are done perhaps were inspired or done by people that had some type of drug use to them. And it would be amazing if you knew all the people that do not, and especially in a modern day time, come actively and say something as such of having ever done things. I mean, it was just the shocker when Bill Clinton said he tried to inhale but couldn't, which is a joke. We all know that. And then what's his name came in after, and he goes, "I did inhale." Remember that? It's weird about this statue is they say they can't find his head. And there's a head right there on the top of that Statius. And I wonder if that isn't his head, or is supposed to, or is taking the place of it. You're supposed to kind of something, or if that's some other deal, because this isn't a church type of setting. So I wonder what type of relic that is. But this is his tomb, and it's on top of it. And so if we come down and scan, you can see somebody that looks much like the picture that we saw earlier, but a little bit fatter face and a little bit more receded hair. For the first picture, he was probably in his late 20s to 30s-ish. And maybe here he is 40-ish, getting to 50. How old was when he died? And all of a sudden, and that's why they wanted to exhume him, huh? An ancient quill pen, feather quill pen. So that's his funerary monument in Stratford-upon-Avon. So the featured image at first is the Cobb portrait, claimed to be the portrait of William Shakespeare done while he was alive, circa 1610. So 1610, and he was, what did he live, 1638? So he lived 28 more years than that. And he's in his 50s. What was it? So, what do y'all think about that? I mean, just so they found some pipes that are of the same age as that tile and time, and in that they find cannabis residue and residue of some unspoken hallucinogen. Hey, enlighten me to what you think that might be. And cocaine, which have been brand new to the New World. But when you find out that there were old ancient Egyptian mummies, yep, those blonde-haired, blue-eyed mummies, they had cocaine and tobacco in their systems whenever they ran checks on them. And I've done a video on that last year during this little season we have of spring, before I got hit a little late on 420, and I had a few choices here, and then I'll be damned, it didn't come out today here with something that's like, well, they were late too. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy, though, and we'll go on to more stories about ancient histories. Peace. La-di-da-di-da-di.